Thanks, everybody, for joining the Prosperous Sellers Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Yates. I'm the CEO of Prime Guidance, and I've got a special guest, Max Sinclair, founder of Azoma, and I think he's got some really cool things to share. So, Max, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hi, it's great to be with you, Steve. I'm Max. I am the founder of Azoma. At Azoma, we're helping some of the world's largest Amazon sellers like Zappos and Mars to increase their share of mentions by Amazon Rufus and other AI search engines like ChatGPT. Before I was running this business, I spent 6 years working in Amazon, and I worked in a number of different roles. One of the interesting ones being responsible for catalog browse and search for the launch of Amazon in Singapore. So that's me.
Awesome. I bet that experience serves you well, huh?
Yeah, I think it serves me well, both in kind of obviously understanding the Amazon ecosystem and how Amazon works and what has historically worked in Amazon, how Amazon thinks in terms of its algorithms and all that stuff. But then also just learning how to build a company from one of the greatest companies I think ever built, from one of the best entrepreneurs ever in Jeff Bezos, and kind of growing up as that's really my only experience. I ran my own business before Amazon, and then I joined Amazon, and now I'm running my own business again. So it's really my only corporate experience I've had, but just so much I've learned. I think from the culture and how what it was like working at a company like Amazon as well.
Yeah, I used to work at Amazon for a number of years as well, and I think it's really valuable what they instill in people in a very short amount of time, like the leadership principles, how they operate. There's culturally, it's amazing that they've been able to be so consistent globally with an organization where everyone's aligned on what are the objectives and so forth. It's pretty impressive.
And they're such good leadership principles, because I'm sitting here being like, oh, I think I should change my cultural principles of the company. And I'm like, it's something I'm debating myself, is how they got it just to work so well and kind of cover every basis. I mean, there were 12 or 14 or whatever it was. So there's quite a lot of them, but the way that was so integrated into the company was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So I know this is e-commerce. Everything's growing rapidly. Things are changing now with the advent of AI. People's shopping behavior is different. So what are your thoughts on how consumers' behaviors are changing when it comes to, how they're researching products and discovering, what's new and so forth?
So Statista, put out a survey from Prime Day this year, so a few months ago, about how people search and purchase products, and 44% of Gen Z, 24% of baby boomers use ChatGPT, 46% of Gen Z and 17% of baby boomers used Amazon Rufus. So we're at this inflection point now where people are using AI search. I mean, the proof is in the pudding in terms of how much Amazon are investing in it and improving it. This week, for the first time, we've seen memory and reasoning be integrated into Rufus. So really, really big step changes. If people cast their mind back to using GPT, the early GPTs compared to GPT-5, the real only step change has been the reasoning models and kind of the way that it can kind of process an answer, think about it, run tens of parallel queries, and then bring back a better and more informed response. So Rufus is now doing that. Customers are very, very adept in 2025 to using AI search. 60% of us have kind of moved to AI engines rather than traditional search engines to just find and discover products, according to Capgemini in general. So we've kind of passed this inflection point now, I think, and that's why so many of the world's largest brands want to know how they can be mentioned more and be recommended more, and that's what we help with.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love AI and I use it all the time. We have Teslas and we use Grok in the car, ask questions when we're driving around and so forth. And I have an electrician here right now, and we're installing some lighted mirrors, and I basically just took a picture of the back of the mirror and said, here's my wall, here are the measurements, tell me exactly where I need to put the screws to make sure these are lined up with the sinks and at the right height and everything. And it's just amazing what it is capable of doing, where you used to have to do a lot of different calculations yourself. Now it can do it in seconds for you. And I think consumers are slowly trying to figure that out. They're saying, wait, I was searching for items, poking and or prodding, trying to find the right items that fit. Now I can use Rufus and actually type what I'm looking for and let it do that for me. And I could still choose, what I'm buying, but now I'm narrowing the result set so much faster. I think everyone's going to be pleased with how efficient their shopping experience will be going forward. But if you're an Amazon seller, boy, this is a pretty scary time. What is going to need to happen for me to show up there? And I know there's a lot of different technologies and so forth. One of the things that I know you have mentioned, in the past was generative engine optimization. Would love you to just kind of explain that more. What is it and how's it work? How's it different from legacy SEO?
Yeah, so generative engine optimization, GEO, or answer engine optimization, AEO, is kind of the terminologies that people are using to describe influencing an AI model, and akin to the traditional SEO of kind of getting yourself ranked on those traditional legacy kind of keyword like stack ranking models that A9 algorithm was maybe 3-4 years ago. I don't know when you were at Amazon, but when I was at Amazon and I was doing this stuff, so it's a new term, and I think it's warranted given that we're dealing with a new technology, right? Like a large language model, like Rufus or ChatGPT, has been trained on an enormous corpus of data, and you can read the Amazon science papers. They'll openly talk about how they're signing partnerships with kind of news outlets and whatnot to train Rufus on more data. And obviously they've got tons and tons of internal data, purchasing histories and conversion, all that stuff, right? And they use that, so the LLM is trained on a world knowledge, and they now have memory, so they will kind of understand each individual user and their past purchases and their preferences. And then when a user puts in a prompt, it will use that world knowledge and the context of the user and the prompt to recommend a product. And that it's a fundamental technology shift from what we used to have, which is kind of trying to hit certain keywords, which were, let's say, high volume and low competition, or basically, or some variants of that strategy, right? So we've moved from like a deterministic AI system to a generative one, to a reasoning one, and that is why we have this new kind of GEO, AEO, whatever we ends up being called, kind of terminology for it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about how these things are working, and it's not the typical keyword stuffing that is going to work anymore. It's a matter of giving all of the right data points to allow it to quickly decipher what is the product, which ones are most relevant, and which ones are most closely aligned with what the consumer's searches are for, and also known behaviors and purchasing patterns and everything else. So I know you dabble in a bunch of different things, but one of your solutions is econtent.ai. And I know you kind of have like a scoring system on how are you actually doing as it relates to findability on some of these channels like ChatGPT and such, and Rufus and Cosmos and others. What are some of the key elements that you think everyone needs to be paying attention to?
Yeah, so absolutely. Well, firstly, as is one product. E-content and Azoma is the same. Is the same product. I guess Azoma is our new brand that has some additional features, but essentially it's built on what we've been building for years. It's the same company. And what do people need to? So to answer your question, like what do people need to care about? What we've always been driven by at Azoma / e-content is the Amazon science papers. We've always been reading the Amazon science papers. My co-founder is a PhD in postdoc in AI. We've been seeing what Amazon is saying, because they publish 2,000 papers, whatever it is, and what they've been saying that they need to, what you need to do to get recommended by these models. And I'll talk about one paper which is called Shopping Agent for Addressing Subjective Product Needs. But there's many papers. There's a Cosmo paper, as we discussed. I mean, they all have variants on the same theme, basically. There's tens of them that have the variants on the same theme. And it's basically about giving the models context in order to get your product surfaced. So in the Subjective Product Needs paper, they talked about highlighting the subjective properties, so talking about the adjective that would describe the product. So is it a sturdy table? Is it a colorful dress? The event in which it's used. So is it for pregnancy or Christmas? The activity, is it gaming or running shoes or whatever would it be? The goal or the purpose that the user has for why they would purchase your product, and then who that audience is. So, and you need to put those 5 elements into the product listings. And as we said, it's not anymore about stuffing in keywords. It's about giving these LLMs context through, and they're multimodal, so through the images and the text, giving the context about who your audience is, why they're buying the product, what event they're using it for, etc., etc., etc. And that is the backing of the Cosmo algorithm. That is the basis also of like Rufus and how it's used. It's the basis of how large language models and reasoning models operate, in the very, crudest sense. So it's how ChatGPT and Perplexity work as well. And that's what we have been helping our customers to do is craft, great visual and written content that addresses those things.
And you mentioned visual content. That's an important element, right? In the past, these engines weren't looking at the graphics; they were just looking at keywords. Now,
correct,
they're not only looking at all of the attributes, keywords, etc., but they're saying, do they actually visually show this item on a beach? If they're saying it's a beach towel or whatever, they're piecing it all together to see relevancy, right?
Yeah, and I remember back in the day, 2017 maybe, when I used to work in IDQ, item data quality in Amazon. And the technology wasn't where it is today. And you type in something like a gray jumper into Amazon, and you'd get black jumpers and green jumpers and purple jumpers and everything. Because the AI wasn't smart enough to, the sellers would be stuffing keywords. So you'd be a seller who would, often the crafty ones would they know that the gray jumper is a high volume keyword. They have a blue jumper. They were going to put gray jumper in the somewhere in the product listing anyway, because they want to, people may change their mind and buy it. Maybe this is a bad example, but you get the point, right? They want to get ranking on multiple different things. And the technology that we had at our disposal, like the internal tools, were not smart enough to fix this, because they had like the early AI engines where it could basically do some deciphering of color, but like it was nowhere near to like the ease and the accessibility and the scale that you'd have of a ChatGPT. You put in ChatGPT, what color is this jumper? It will tell you what it is. Like the multimodal and image capability of these are fantastic, and Amazon has recognition now, which can do this very, very effectively, and they're using that in Cosmo and Rufus and in the search algorithm. And they're definitely, multimodal is definitely a really important part of it. And you can see that as a shopper using Rufus yourself, you will see it bring in the images to the answer often, in many cases.
Do you ever, basically look at Amazon recognition and say, what is it? It actually, like if you generate content, what does it actually decipher from that content, and is it aligned?
It's not personally. We use Comprehend in some elements of our software, which is really good at understanding sentiment analysis. So we want to make sure that we want to make sure the content that we generate doesn't look AI generated. I guess like that's one of the key things that we do is we make AI generated content that doesn't sound AI generated. Part of that is using Claude, which is just better, I think, for that than ChatGPT. Part of that is using kind of these AI detectors, and including Comprehend. We have looked at recognition at various points, but I think it's more that Amazon use it to determine what's happening on the product listings. It's not something that I don't think today are like actively using in like our workflows.
We're using similar tools to basically uncover the same information, though, right? To validate that the content you're generating is kind of clearly understood by AI, right?
Yes, yeah. We make sure it's understood by AI, and the proof is in the conversion uplifts and in the bestseller rank uplifts that we do. So I think our post generation focus is more on making sure it's not sounding AI generated, but that it hits all of the principles that we talked about the audience, talks about this, talks about that, events, location, blah 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 blah, seasonality, the visuals, and look good. It's hard in some way. I think people can still tell on like a lifestyle image if it's AI generated, but when it comes to infographics, it's impossible to know now if it's generated by content Azoma or if it's generated by a graphics designer in Photoshop, and like who the hell cares? Like, what's the difference at the end of the day at this point? But lifestyle images, I think we're not quite there yet. But then we're seeing these advances every day, right? So we see this new banana Google model that everyone's talking about, kind of in the last week, that seems to be pretty good, and people posting on LinkedIn, so we'll get to photorealism. Of course, we'll get there maybe by the end of the year. Who knows?
It's gotten so much better. And one thing I actually love about talking to you, every single time I talk to you, you mention about how one solution's leapfrogged over another, and you've switched to use that solution for your platform. And I really love that about your tool. And I was just thinking about it as we were talking. I bet there's a lot of people that don't know what your solution provides. Why don't you just pause a second, tell people what is your tool, so that there's some of the context we talk about, people can more closely relate to it.
Yeah, well, on your first comment, I have one of my team members. We're now a team of 20. So we're all based in like the UK or Toronto. We've got like really high quality team in terms of like people from University of Waterloo, PhDs, postdocs in AI, this kind of stuff. One of my team members' basic full-time job is to look at what's happening on the market and make sure that our customers are getting the latest and greatest AI tools, and basically make the changes and assess when it is worth making a change, when it's not worth making a change. Like, is it like do the new models improve stuff, and test it, and then implement it? So that's a full-time job for someone, because honestly, if you look on GitHub, like the amount of new models and fine-tuning version of these models that come out, all the like an open source models, like it's just like enormous, right? So we always make sure that we're on the cutting edge for our customers. What do we actually do for customers? So at Azoma, kind of taking the Azoma like end-to-end workflow that we do, we help customers to understand how their shoppers are talking to AI search engines. So we kind of simulate how their target audience is speaking to ChatGPT, to Amazon Rufus, Walmart Sparky, whatever it would be. We prompt these engines hundreds of thousands of times with this predictive view, and we collect the responses, and we map out how the customer how they're stacking up against their competition. And then we use that data in terms of their how often they're being recommended, and their sentiment of the brand, etc., to then generate optimized visual and written product listing content. So lifestyle images, infographics, A+ content, backend keywords, text, everything. And we've built an end-to-end solution. So it's easy to kind of get these analytics and insights on how your your brand is performing, how your SKUs are performing, and then actually generate optimized content to move the needle.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool because you're able to basically get people to understand where they need to be, where they're at today, and then you're able to help them generate the content to get where they're at and monitor how are we looking today. And even if it's not the way you'd want to necessarily deploy it, it's getting you like 75, 80+% where you need to be to make you that much more efficient, right? So that's the beauty of AI. It's not replacing humans, it's making humans more efficient and effective so we can really, deploy things in a much more powerful way. Instead of having to like decipher what should the bullet points be on this item, what should the graphics be on this item, what are the key, infographics that I want to call out, et cetera. Your tool is basically deciphering that for them and then deploying a solution that you can go ahead and publish and push right away, or you can go and modify and get across the finish line the way you want it to be deployed. Pretty cool.
Beautifully summed up. Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned earlier about the content being kind of AI like you can decipher what's AI written. And I know you mentioned Claude. I'm a big fan of Claude when it comes to writing. I think it's much better in a lot of ways, especially like contracts and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts about AI generated content, both images and text, being looked at differently in algorithms like Google in the future? And is there, are you trying to think about what that's going to look like in the future to be one step ahead of it and make sure that any content you're generating is still going to be kind of weighted and valued properly?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing more and more is that AI generated content is coming is everywhere, and like many folks now, like Amazon sellers and individual Amazon sellers, not using an agency, not using anything, not using our software or anything, we'll just be like using ChatGPT, generating it, using some custom GPT. Like it's really it's kind of everyone, like at least see WhatsApp I'm on, like they love their custom GPTs, they're putting in their details, generating stuff, and part of the problem is that there is definitely, and this is for ranking on ChatGPT, less so Amazon, but for ChatGPT, it doesn't love ranking stuff which is it can tell as itself. So you need to be careful. I mean, using Claude is a good way of doing that, right? But then also like making sure that the content doesn't come up as AI generated content. With these AI kind of scanners, and you have like multiple free ones where you can just test if something, like you can put it in and they're pretty accurate. Like they can tell if something's AI generated, and I think also humans can as well. Like you can read, you will see an email and you'll know when it's AI generated, right? So we're definitely very, very, very cautious about this, and we become I said increasingly so. Like when we started the business a few years ago, we were one of the first people helping people to generate AI product listings. And kind of that was amazing and saving lots of time and money. And now it's kind of like that's the flaw. Everyone's doing it, and it needs to be better. It needs to be more optimized. It needs to be less obviously AI. And those are steps that we take.
Yeah, for sure. And graphics as well. You're kind of losing your ability to defend that as your image too. Are you finding that there's anything that can be easily done to kind of use AI, but then add elements from a human to like still make it defensible?
What do you mean by defend your image?
Like for example, you're infringing on my copyright because that's my creation. And as an AI creation, you can't really defend upon it like you could if it was your own artwork, for example, or your own photography or something like that.
I mean, it's like I don't know where the dust will settle on this. I mean, I feel like, not to get political, but I don't feel it's a big motivation of like the Trump led White House to stop this stuff, right? Like you don't hear any sounds anymore. Like maybe you did like even a year ago, like this copyright stuff, but certainly now, you know, it feels like there's a big, I'm not a lawyer, there's a big debate about how they're using the inputs to train these models, and you know, there is it copyright infringement, is it not? It seems like for now the big AI companies have won. You know, like there's no kind of legal repercussions happening. I remember in the early days we were tracking this, and there were certainly some, you know, people suing Midjourney. Like, you know, this is kind of like in 23, right? Like people getting very upset with Midjourney about artistic styles, and they took them to court. And it looked like for a time that it could go either way, and maybe this whole thing could just be shut down. You can't generate AI content. Like now, it feels like it's kind of just the Wild West. And again, I'm not an expert. I don't know the ins and the outs, but it's from what I sense from the news and everything, it feels like we've accepted it and moved on from that perspective.
I've even had an attorney on recently, and I said, hey, you know, how do you defend an AI generated image against your competitors, essentially using that image? And they also had a similar, I don't know, stance. Like it's still being decided and under, you know, and it's a tricky subject right now. But you know what we kind of tell our clients.
I'm obviously not an attorney, so I obviously have no idea. I'm just commenting on the vibes that I sense from Twitter and LinkedIn, and it feels like once this was a big a bone of contention, and I remember early customers getting very cautious about this and being like, oh, you know, like, can we use a AI generated image? And now I feel like, you know, the genie's out of the bottle. Everyone's doing it. The biggest companies in the world are doing it. The, you know, small independent sellers, one person businesses are doing it. Like it's just part of the game now. And I don't see like it, like I feel bad for the artist, but like it opens up such human creativity in so many ways for so many people that on balance, like my personal opinion, is probably a good thing. You know, I don't see how we can reverse course now unless there's like big lawsuits coming against Midjourney and ChatGPT and like they start to shut these things down, which I think would be quite damaging.
I guess, you know, there's two trains of thought. One is where are they getting their content to give answers, and should they have access to it? But the angle I was going after is how can you make sure that some Chinese factory just doesn't steal your graphics and deploy them, and you have no defense against it because yours was AI generated, so you can't claim that it was your creation. And what we kind of tell our clients is, hey, it's still an unclear way of being able to defend this, but if you add human elements on top of the AI generated thing, you're probably more likely to have a defense against it. But you know, that we'll see how this all pans out.
You know more than me. You know more than me. I couldn't comment from a legal point of view.
So if you were like, for example, you search on ChatGPT, it references sources and different. If you ask it like, you know, what are some of the top brands that are featured or that produce this type of product? How can you get your brand for the Amazon sellers in the audience to have their brand focused in these AI engines?
Well, I've got some good news for the Amazon sellers, which is we did a study. We analyzed millions and millions of ChatGPT prompts in the commerce ChatGPT prompts, like give me the best running shoe, etc. And what we found is that actually 19% of the time, Amazon is the reference in the commerce situation. So ChatGPT is going to Amazon. So if you do well-optimized product listing for Amazon in the ways we talked about for Rufus, you're also like going to drive additional traffic to that product listing from ChatGPT. Similar, you know, slight nuances. I mean, you want to be answering the questions that people are asking in ChatGPT. Those are obviously slightly different from what people are asking in Rufus. It's kind of earlier discovery stage questions. And again, like we help customers to figure out what those questions are at Azoma. But for our technology. But the good news is that you can generate optimized content on Amazon and have that rank in ChatGPT. The other big sources, Wikipedia and Reddit. In general, Wikipedia is 43% of references on ChatGPT. Reddit is 12%, but it goes up to 15% when we're talking about commerce queries. So making sure that your brand is mentioned in Reddit and Wikipedia, as well as on Amazon itself, go a long way in helping you to get mentioned.
Yeah, I see the same thing in my own searches. And one thing that I've found is that these tools are they're very very much inclined to focus on consumer sentiment versus just what's out there. So it's looking at both and oftentimes combine that. So the importance of what people are saying on Reddit, what people are saying, what the information is on Wikipedia, and like product reviews and everything that really matters as to where your traditional A9 engine's not taking into account any of that, right?
Yeah.
I think personally, making sure that you're really focused on, the consumer sentiment, I think is a big piece of where I've seen success on the chat engines as well. So if you're only doing one piece and you're just trying to get all the attributes together and so forth, but you have no reviews, no customer sentiment, that's probably an area of opportunity. And like you said, Reddit, make sure your brand's featured on Reddit, make sure people are talking about it on Reddit. I think those little efforts can go a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've been helping our customers with that as well.
Are there any more granular things that people need to know about as far as like, I want my specific product to be called out when people are searching on ChatGPT Shopping or Amazon Rufus?
Yeah.
What are some of the tips and tricks there?
Yeah, so I guess, like, as I said, there's three things broadly. Number one, understanding what customers are asking these engines and making sure that you answer them. Number two, creating optimized content. And we discussed like what optimized content for this looks like. It's about the audience. It's about why the goal they have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's giving context, optimizing for like semantic search and giving context. And then number three, as we just discussed, is making sure that you're cited where AI cites products. So Amazon is, if you're selling on Amazon, it's a good start because Amazon is one of those citations. Wikipedia and Reddit are the two big ones. And then there's, in each category, when we work with different customers, we will see loads of different citations like blogs and like influencers, TikTok sometimes, like loads of different in like for each niche is very different, but like different journals and whatever it would be. So you need to be there. You need to be what's relevant in your category. You need to be there. You need to be mentioned, and that will help you to be mentioned in ChatGPT.
And Walmart recently announced their own AI tool. Have you
Sparky.
done any?
Yeah. We help customers with Sparky as well. Yeah.
Have you noticed any key differences there?
Any key differences? I would say Sparky feels a little bit like Rufus did a few months ago, like ChatGPT did like 6 to 9 months ago. I think many of the detractors, there's a few of them in the space go, "Oh, Rufus rubbish," right? Like they're missing the point, right? The point is like, where's this going? How is consumer behavior changing?
Yeah.
And we're at a point today where like most people are using ChatGPT to research products now, as I said at the top, and Rufus is kind of basically like as good as GPT-4 really now, I think, with reasoning and memory and everything else that it's got these days. And people using it and the direction's only going, and like, Sparky's slightly behind, but they'll get there. And, they're going to be fully, agentic shopping assistants in the future. Like this is going to radically transform how people find and discover products online. It's exciting.
Yeah, very cool. Personally, how are you using AI? Are you an advanced user? Are you doing anything cool and creative outside of what you're using it for the business side?
Yeah, I use AI every day. Do I do anything cool and creative? Probably not. I'm probably quite boring with my AI. I have like Claude is probably my favorite one for writing, as we discussed. I use GenSpark to find. I love my statistics, and I think GenSpark is the best one at like finding like niche statistics. So I'll be like, oh, I need to know how many Hispanic women in their 40s are using ChatGPT or whatever it is, right? Like some random thing for some random customer, and I'll use GenSpark because it's really good at like finding some like study done by some university in Florida, which is like bang on exactly what I was looking for, and it's just just incredible to like find like give good sources to and inform how you're talking to people. So I use GenSpark for that. I use Perplexity for general search. I use ChatGPT, of course, for many like everyday things that would not be writing, not be like search. I find it deep research is maybe the best out of everyone so far, at the moment at least. So yeah, that's I use it. That's how I use it.
Who do you think is doing the best at images right now?
We are using Image Gen from Google, and that was the best. And they've just released a new one, which we're testing, which looks even better. So I would say Google is in my mind the best at images as of August 25.
Yeah. What about videos? Do you get into that?
We will do it. Nothing has been quite there that I think you could like honestly put on the product listing, but actually I don't know if I know this about me. I'm like an official Amazon educator, and like Amazon are doing a lot of like video stuff themselves, and I think they are. I've spoken a lot to these Amazon folks who are like Gen AI ad studio Amazon folks, and they are really training. They've trained their own model for video. I can't remember the name of it. I mean, it wasn't world beating. It wasn't beating these labs, but they also obviously use all of these labs because they have them on AWS. So I for whatever reason, Amazon's base models are, it's not the focus of the company. They're not the best, but they're definitely working on it. And I think it's probably about as good as it gets for like not having hallucinations on products, which is kind of like the main use case for Amazon sellers, right? Like, yeah, videos are cool and like you're not looking to do like random cartoon like bears fighting. You want to like upload a product and have that product to maintain consistency and not hallucinate. And I think Amazon themselves are working on that.
They've come a long way. I'm excited to see where it's going. I mean, just looking at all the things they've done in a short amount of time, it's clear it's an initiative that they're focusing on. And
yeah, they're definitely focusing on it. Are you at Accelerate? Do you go there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
See you there. So I'm sure they're going to announce some stuff there.
Yeah, it'll be a fun Accelerate because the AI is just so heavily used these days, heavily focused on these days. I'm really excited. I always get excited about what they're going to share, and I think more so this year than ever, probably.
Well, it's a funny thing as a software founder, because I went there last year and we had just launched A+ content, and we were a smaller company then, and we'd spent like 6 months working on our A+ content, and we literally launched it maybe like a month before, and people were loving it. And then at Accelerate, Amazon announced they had A+ content, and that was like genuinely really scary for me in some ways, but actually it's turned out fine, because it like their product's actually not very good, and like ours does it works at scale, and it also enables you to like build your own templates a bit like Canva. So like who knows, maybe they'll upgrade it this year and I'll eat my words, but it's fun. It's also scary for me, because I'm like, are we going to destroy what we've been building for the last 6 months, and they're just going to do it as well?
I don't blame you for that whatsoever. One of the things I like about your tools, it shows you what the AI has prompted to the AI engine to generate, and you're able to override that, basically, and really refine it. And I think that it's a nice blend of full automation versus having those manual elements, like you said, even just dragging and dropping. I think it's one of the key differentiators is if you go to your typical search prompt, or I guess prompt to an AI engine is do this, create this image this way. And a lot of times you ask it to modify something and it generates a whole new image. It's not what you wanted. You just wanted it to just move this one element from here to there or whatever. Your tool actually allows you to do it in layers so that you're not, you're not so limited. I think that's really one of the more valuable points that you guys bring to the table.
Appreciate it.
Have you ever thought about partnership like with Canva, so that people that are familiar with Canva can do their editing there instead?
We have built our own Canva, and it's obviously nowhere near as good as Canva. It's worse, in many regards. So I think we would have liked to do it. I think Canva thinks about it in the opposite way. Like they have an app store and you can build a Canva app, but you can't use Canva in your app, which is, upsetting. So we kind of built our own one, and it's got it's not, it's like Canva, but it's kind of, it's not as good, but it's definitely better than Amazon's one. So, we're on the...
It's capable.
Exactly. It's capable.
Yeah. Well, this has been outstanding. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we leave you?
Actually, I would, for those who are also going to be in Accelerate, we're sponsoring a drink. So Steve, I'll invite you afterwards as well, but you can put you can put it here. I'll send it in the chat. Maybe you can link it. So
we'll add it into the podcast.
Exactly. But if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, Max Sinclair 4, Azoma.ai. And let's chat.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is great. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Bye-bye.